endure as it has endured, will revive and will prosper. So first of all, let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror, which paralyzes needed effort to convert retreat into advance.
A man who left a legacy by driving a destroyed country out of chaos, ending one of the largest and deadliest wars in modern history, and effectively transforming the president's role completely. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, a true leader.
Roosevelt is the greatest president of the 20th century. And beyond this, I think that the policies he adopted to deal with this terrible crisis of the Great Depression are the most imaginative, the most creative of any president in our history.
Following the end of Herbert Hoover's administration, the United States was in shambles with close to a 25% unemployment rate throughout the country. The Great Depression left a lasting stain on Herbert Hoover because of his pull yourself up from the bootstrap theology, an unwillingness to implement any radical changes.
Present leadership in Washington stands convicted, not because it did not have the means to plan, but fundamentally because it did not have the will to do. And that is why next week the American people will register their firm conviction that this administration has utterly and entirely failed to meet the great emergency of modern times.
It was no shock to most of America when Hoover lost his campaign against FDR in 1932, with what has been known as the largest unprecedented landslide up to that point in history, ushering in the administration of a new president. Unlike President Hoover, Roosevelt believed that the only way to solve the Depression is to take action, and he did exactly that. FDR's slogan while campaigning was a New Deal, built to stabilize the economy as much as possible and provide as many stable jobs as possible. It began with the bank holidays, in which a day after his famous inaugural address, he closed all banks for 4 days and passed the Emergency Banking Act that reconsolidated and organized many of the banks that were still functioning. Roosevelt's next step was returning the banks to a healthy condition. He achieved this by implementing the first ever fireside chat, using the radio, encouraging Americans to reinvest their money in banks.
After all, there is an element in the readjustment of our financial system more important than currency, more important than gold, and that is the confidence of the people themselves. Confidence and courage are the essentials of success in carrying out our plan. You people must have faith. You must not be stampeded by rumors or guesses. Let us unite in banishing fear. We have provided the machinery to restore our financial system, and it is up to you to support and make it work.
President Roosevelt's fireside chats had an astonishing effect on the people of the United States, boosting their confidence and, more importantly, their hope.
The most important thing he brought into the presidency in 1933 was this contagious confidence that he felt in himself and in his countrymen, so that even from that first speech, the inaugural speech, it's almost as if he projected his confidence onto the people, and they're saying to themselves, if he believes in us, then we believe in ourselves.
At the end of March, nearly 3/4 of all banks were open again. This was the beginning of the famed first 100 days. A group of FDR's most trusted advisors and himself worked to pass major laws and reformations. Acts such as the AAA Agricultural Adjustment Act and TVAA Tennessee Valley Authority Act gave needed support and benefit to farmers reeling from the Great Depression. However, a few men at the time were more grateful for the retraction of prohibition than anything else, saying that was the best thing that Roosevelt did during his administration. After the initial 100 days, while Roosevelt's contributions did help some, unemployment had barely moved and many people were still out of work. This led to the Second New Deal taking place in the spring of 1935 that many people consider much more aggressive and different from the previous deal. This New Deal was built around putting average people back to work and restoring the American economy completely. Short-term organizations established under the $4.8 billion Emergency Relief Appropriation Act, such as the CCC, Civilian Conservation Corps, and WPA, Works Progress Administration, put people back to work. The WPA was responsible for employing over 8.5 million people building roads, bridges, and schools. Even writers and musicians were put on a federal payroll, creating murals and national park guidebooks. Even if you only worked for a few dollars a day, it gave hope to millions of Americans. One of the most notable and significant acts passed was the Social Security Administration Act that stands to this day, working as a safe net for those retired or unable to work.
Our responsibility is to all of the people in this country. This is a great national crusade, a crusade to destroy enforced idleness, which is an enemy of the human spirit generated by this depression.
In the end of the day, while all of FDR's policies and programs decreased unemployment to 9%, none of them were truly able to lift America out of the Great Depression. One thing, and one thing only, was able to do that: war. December 7th, 1941 marks Pearl Harbor, the first attack on American soil from a foreign power since the War of 1812. World War II ushered in an entirely new chapter to what we know as American history, and President Franklin Delano Roosevelt was at the helm of it.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. No matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory.
The day after Pearl Harbor, the United States enters World War II, and President Franklin Delano Roosevelt begins to move his pieces. Production in the United States skyrockets, with the U.S. accounting for nearly double of everyone else in World War II combined. A month after Pearl Harbor, FDR created the Grand Alliance, built to fight against the Axis and become a peacekeeping organization after the war ended, now known as the United Nations. Not only was FDR a leader to the United States, but also played a crucial role as moderator between Stalin and Churchill, two polar opposites.
The Grand Alliance. At this point in our history, we know that Germany is to go into a straitjacket of Allied-imposed discipline. The blueprint of its future has been drawn, signed and sealed. Let a quotation from the communiqué issued from Yalta speak for us all. It is our inflexible purpose to destroy German militarism and Nazism and ensure that Germany will never again be able to disturb the peace of the world.
Tragedy strikes the nation. After completely transforming the United States for 4 consecutive terms, over the course of more than 12 years, Franklin Delano Roosevelt dies, April 12, 1945, 2 months after the Yalta Conference due to a cerebral hemorrhage.
Upon which we can begin to build, under God, that better world in which our children and grandchildren, yours and mine, the children and grandchildren of the whole world, must live and can live.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt was more than just a leader. He was a man. He was a man that, just like us, had obstacles that stood in his way of success. Throughout his lifetime, FDR struggled with polio, often having to be confined to a wheelchair. However, polio did not stop him from becoming the strongest and most influential president in modern history. Polio did not stop him from passing 3,728 executive orders, more than double of the next leading president. Polio did not stop him from making controversial decisions, such as the court packing plan or Executive Order 9066. FDR was a president surrounded in both controversy and respect for his policies during the Great Depression, his actions during World War II, and how he overall revolutionized the role of president and left his legacy.